Coming up in our newscast tonight, U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Stephen Biegun says Washington will not accept partial denuclearization. Pyongyang also clarified through its propaganda outlet that the regime wants to move toward completely abandoning nuclear weapons. President Moon Jae-in continues his three-nation diplomacy tour. Over in Kuala Lumpur, the South Korean leader first focuses on building bilateral ties, Hallyu and the Halal industry. The IMF Korea mission chief praised the country's strong fundamentals, including low public debt, but he pointed out expansionary fiscal policy, accommodative monetary policy, and labor market reform are needed in the face of slowing trade and sluggish investment. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome, I'm Daniel Che. America will not accept partial denuclearization that's coming from Washington's special envoy for North Korea. It was Stephen Biegun's first public remark since the collapsed Hanoi summit. He also pointed to a key challenge in the two sides' negotiations. Park Hee-jun has our top story.
The U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun, says the U.S. is not going to do denuclearization incrementally. Speaking at a nuclear conference hosted by the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace on Monday, Biegun put forward an all-or-nothing approach, insisting that the North has to remove all its weapons of mass destruction, including its chemical and biological weapons.
Basically, what the United States wanted is that they want comprehensive agreement and the step-by-step implementation, not on the step-by-step negotiations on every time. So based on his speech today, that it is very difficult for them to find the middle ground between the United States and North Korea with regard to how to achieve the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
Biegun also pointed to the difficulties in negotiating with the North, mainly stemming from the difference in the definition of the Yongbyon nuclear complex. While the complex was defined as only containing plutonium facilities back in 2008 when the six-party talks were ongoing, the special envoy says North Korea has since built new uranium enrichment facilities. He said the U.S. is demanding the removal of all dimensions of the nuclear fuel cycle and the nuclear weapons program, and highlighted the importance of a complete declaration. As for recent reports on new activity at the Dongchangli test site, Biegun says Washington is closely monitoring the rocket site. He said he did not know whether the North Korean leader would decide to launch another missile, but he reiterated that President Trump would be disappointed if Kim were to resume missile testing. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
And for the first time since the Hanoi summit, North Korea publicly stated it's still up for complete denuclearization. The regime's propaganda outlet Uri Minjok-giri reported Tuesday that Pyongyang firmly wants to establish new relations with Washington, bring peace to the peninsula, and move toward completely abandoning its nuclear arsenal. The report also implied the North will keep communicating with the U.S. A separate propaganda outlet, DPRK, today released the same report. These outlets aren't considered as official as state-run media like the Korean Central News Agency or the Rodong Sinmun, but the reports are still grabbing attention as they're the first to show the regime's stance about denuclearization since the latest Kim-Trump meeting. South Korea appears to be working hard behind the scenes to keep the inter-Korean peace drive on track. Seoul's top security advisor Chung Eui-yong reportedly traveled to China over the weekend for a meeting with the country's top diplomat Yang Jiechi. Sources say the two discussed the Hanoi summit and possible follow-up measures. Chung was reportedly due to hold a phone conversation with his American counterpart on Monday evening, Korea time. Earlier, John Bolton told ABC News he will be speaking with Chung over the latest satellite images that show the regime could be rebuilding its missile launch site. South Korea's top office has yet to confirm whether the call happened. Seoul urged Pyongyang to act prudently after pictures showed construction work at one of the regime's missile test sites. The foreign ministry expressed concerns about the apparent renovations at the Seohae satellite launching station in Dongchangli, a site previously used to test engines for ICBMs. During a press conference, the ministry spokesperson said the South Korean government has been closely watching Dongchang-ri even before the Kim-Trump summit in Hanoi. He highlighted that South Korea has been taking part in negotiations with Pyongyang and Washington about complete denuclearization. When asked whether Seoul is playing mediator, he said the role rather is of a facilitator. North Korea released the results of its parliamentary election held on Sunday. While the communist state elected nearly 700 deputies to the Supreme People's Assembly, its leader Kim Jongun was not included in the list, the first such case in the regime's history. Woo Jung-hee explains why.
For the first time in North Korean history, the regime's leader is not a representative in parliament, a major change from the past. On Tuesday, North Korea released a list of 687 people elected as deputies to the 14th Supreme People's Assembly, Pyongyang's parliament that ratifies decisions made by the ruling party, enacts laws, and reviews the state budget. And on this long list, Kim Jong-un's name was nowhere to be seen, meaning he did not run. North Korea's leaders have always served in the legislature. The regime's founder and Kim Jong-un's grandfather, Kim Il-sung, served in the 1st to the 9th Supreme People's Assemblies, and Kim's father, Kim Jong-il, did so from the 7th to the 12th. Kim Jong-un was elected to the 13th Assembly 5 years ago. Experts say not electing him to the 14th one could be part of efforts to portray North Korea as a normal country.
In North Korea, the leaders exert supreme authority, so naturally they have had titles in parliament, in the party, and in the cabinet. But in capitalist countries, this will be weird because it means that the president doubles as a lawmaker. Kim Jong-un is trying to portray North Korea as a normal state, and his exclusion this time is part of these efforts.
Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, however, was elected as a deputy. The North's foreign minister, Lee Yong-ho, and its vice foreign minister, Choi Sun-hee, also made the list. Other key figures involved in talks with South Korea and the U.S., such as Lee Sun-kwon and Kim Young-chul, have become deputies too. The Supreme People's Assembly has far less power than the Workers' Party itself, so their inclusion changes little in terms of control, but for these key figures, it's another symbol of their authority. Woo Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, South Korea and the United States have wrapped up their joint military exercise named Dong Maeng, a scaled-down version of previous combined drills. The computer-simulated command post exercise began last Monday and ended today. Dong Maeng means alliance, and the drills focus on defense contingency mechanisms. Earlier this month, Seoul's Defense Chief Chung Kyung-do and his American counterpart, Patrick Shanahan, decided to end the allies' long-standing Key Resolve exercise, which was 2 weeks long, and to inaugurate the smaller Dong Maeng drills in light of ongoing diplomacy with the North. The remains of Han Byung-gu, a Korean War hero, have been returned to his family today after 69 long years. This afternoon, the Defense Ministry's Agency for Killed in Action Recovery and Identification held a return ceremony at the home of Han's younger brother in Seoul. The late private first class enrolled in the military in December 1950 at the young age of 18 to defend his country. Han's remains were found in September 2016, but it took about 2 years to find the matching DNA from his family. According to the recovery agency, there are some 10,000 sets of remains yet to be identified. The agency asked for public initiatives to help return these remains to their families. President Moon Jae-in is in Malaysia, the second leg of his 3-stop ASEAN tour, after having wrapped up his visit to Brunei that focused much on energy and infrastructure cooperation. The South Korean leader is eyeing high-tech and halal industry. Shin Se-min files this report from Kuala Lumpur.
President Moon Jae-in's first day in Malaysia started with an effort to build ties between the countries in Hallyu, or the Korean wave, and the halal industry. Attending an exhibition in the heart of the Malaysian capital, the president said the driving force bringing the two countries together is the Korean wave of entertainment spreading across the world.
한국과 말레이시아가 협력하여 공동 진출한다면 서로가 윈윈하는 경제 협력의 새로운 모델이 될 수 있을 것입니다.
The president said that by integrating Malaysia as a leading hub for halal and Korea's own culture of Hallyu, the two can create a synergy that spans the world. The value of the international halal market currently stands at over $2 trillion, and it's expected to grow by another trillion or more by the year 2022. The South Korean leader's tour of ASEAN nations is partly meant to boost his country's ties with the region under the administration's new Southern policy, which also targets India. It also comes ahead of anniversary next year in which Korea and ASEAN will celebrate 60 years of diplomatic relations. All in all, the president hopes to boost ties with Malaysia so that the relations flourish on the fast-changing technology, while also hoping to lower the bar for Korea to enter the halal market that covers a quarter of the world's population. Shin Se-min, Arirang News, Kuala Lumpur.
Also, President Moon ordered the formation of a pan-national organization to solve the fine dust crisis. According to Cheong Wa Dae spokesperson Kim Jongun, the top office will look into whether ex-UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon would be able to head that organization. The plan was first proposed by Son Ha-kyu, chairman of the opposition Prudently party, who also recommended Ban for that task. Son pointed out that the former UN chief has the diplomatic expertise to discuss and mediate fine dust issues with neighboring countries like China. Kim Jongun also mentioned the administration will examine how to establish the relationship between the existing Special Committee on Fine Dust and the proposed pan-national organization. The nation's top office, government and ruling party officials held a meeting to discuss about establishing a national education committee. The timetable and the direction of the legislation have been decided through the meeting. For details, let's turn to our Hong Yu.
The presidential office of Cheong Wa Dae, along with the government and ruling party, have agreed to establish a National Education Policy Committee at the top office by the end of the year. There are 3 pillars to this initiative.
First, the National Education Policy Committee will be working independently. However, it will belong to the presidential office as an executive committee. In addition, we intend to increase the effectiveness of the National Education Policy Commission's decision by allowing related departments and local governments, including the Education Ministry, take their own decisions in regards to the commission.
The committee will comprise 19 members, including 1 chair, 5 chosen by President Moon, 8 by the National Assembly, and 6 by related ministries. They will serve 3 years term regardless of administration. Last but not least, the committee will be tasked with drawing up 10-year plans for South Korea's education system. Based on social consensus, the government will establish a blueprint on core education policies that form the framework of the nation's education system. In addition, it will carry out research and development, provide support and coordination, boost local education autonomy, and push ahead with education policies. The National Assembly will vote on this initiative by April, with many already anticipating an approval before the first half of this year ends. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
With the March extraordinary session having barely kicked off last week, the Korean parliament seemed to be back in operation, but the road ahead appears rocky after the floor leader of the main opposition party delivered her speech at a plenary session on Tuesday. Kim Jongun has the latest from the National Assembly.
The floor leader of the main opposition Liberty Korea Party, Na Kyung-won, slammed the Moon administration's economic and defense policies on Tuesday. In a speech as leader of the parliament's negotiating blocs, Na criticized the administration's policy of income-led growth and its record on jobs. She claimed that the policy is a violation of the Constitution because it violates the public's economic freedom. She suggested a roundtable conference of economists to come up with practical policies to help revive growth. She also lambasted the government for what she called its complacency over the issue of fine dust pollution. Also, attacking the government's policies on North Korea, the floor leader said that ending South Korea's 3 joint military exercises with the U.S. seriously threatens national security and stressed that Seoul should not be, in her words, defending Pyongyang.
Now, I am ashamed of how the current administration protects and speaks on behalf of North Korea. Please don't make me hear embarrassing things like people calling President Moon the senior spokesman for Kim Jongun.
Those comments provoked a strong backlash from other lawmakers, especially from the ruling party, with some even leaving the chamber. After the speech, ruling party floor leader Hong Young-pyo condemned her statement.
I cannot tolerate the main opposition party floor leader calling the president of the Republic of Korea the senior spokesman of Kim Jongun. We should take strong action against this.
The ruling party floor leader said that the opposition needs to take responsibility for insulting the head of state and for causing chaos in the National Assembly. He said the case will be sent over to the Parliament's Ethics Committee on Tuesday. Kim Mo-kyan, Arirang News.
A delegation from the IMF held its annual meetings with government officials here in the nation between February 27th and March 12th. The IMF Korea mission chief announced some key findings on the local economy at a press briefing today. Kim Jae-sung shares with us his analysis.
An expansionary fiscal policy, accommodative monetary policy, and labor market reform. That's what the IMF Korea mission chief said Korea needs to help support its economic growth. The IMF said Korea has strong fundamentals, including skilled labor force, low public debt, and ample foreign exchange reserves, but that the local economy faces headwinds like sluggish investment, slowing global trade, and rising inequality.
To support short-term growth and contain risks, the authorities should provide more fiscal stimulus through a supplementary budget.
The IMF Korea mission chief said the Moon administration's expansionary fiscal policy is a move in the right direction. The government's budget for 2019 increased by over 9% on year to $415 billion. But with exports, Korea's main driving force, set to slow down amid sluggish global trade, he recommended a supplementary budget of 0.5% of its nominal GDP, or around $8 billion this year, to support growth. Korea's unemployment rate hit 4.4% in January, making it the highest figure in 9 years. To actually help promote long-term inclusive growth and create jobs, the IMF said on top of low interest rates, labor market reform is key.
Flexicurity should be adopted as a basis for labor market policies by making employment protection legislation more flexible, while further enhancing social safety nets.
The IMF said flexicurity, or the combination of flexibility with security in dealing with job market and unemployment benefits, is important to raise productivity and employment. As for economic projection, the IMF said its outlook of Korea's economic growth stands at around 2.6%, in line with Korea's finance ministry's growth projection. Kim Jae-sung, Arirang News.
The South Korean government is working to promptly review a number of amendments and bills, part of efforts to accelerate deregulation and better protect personal data. Kim Jongun gets us up to speed with the developments.
Various bills related to the economy and people's livelihoods were reviewed and deliberated upon on Tuesday at the 10th cabinet meeting presided over by Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun. They included allowing the installation of charging stations for hydrogen vehicles near commercial or residential areas as part of efforts to promote the use of eco-friendly cars. The Prime Minister also expressed his appreciation to the local taxi and private carpooling industries. A resolution to alleviate their feud was met last week between taxi businesses and the government by allowing app-based carpooling services during commute hours and enabling taxi drivers to earn wages.
It's been the result of communication and concessions by both sides. It will serve as an exemplary precedent for similar cases in the future.
Other agenda items included regulations that'll make it harder for private schools to fire or penalize staff members without reasonable cause, as well as measures to tackle sexual harassment. Also, amendments to strengthen the protection of personal data stored by global IT giants, which have servers overseas, such as Google, Facebook, and Apple, were also discussed. Under proposals, the companies could be fined up to $18,000 if they don't designate a local representative to deal with the matter. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea is set to become the first in the world to launch the 5G wireless network. Ahead of this landmark occasion, various telecom companies are showing what our everyday lives could look like in 5G. Oh Seung provides a glimpse of high-tech conveniences to come.
Meet the world's first 5G robot barista. with South Korea set to become the first country in the world to launch the next generation 5G network. Major telecom firms are unveiling new services and gadgets that could soon become a part of daily life. Powered by 5G signals 20 times faster than LTE, it doesn't take long for the robot barista to take and make your order. The robot, launched by KT Corporation, recognizes customers using voice recognition and KT's AI assistant Giga Genie. It promptly serves espresso drinks and even gives you a wave along with your order. An upgraded version at the Mobile World Congress last month served up 47 types of beverage. The company plans to improve facial recognition and AI technology to provide more customized services.
Robot baristas require cables or very stable networks, and this puts a lot of restrictions in terms of the robot's mobility. But connecting the robot to 5G enables steady connections, allowing mobility as well as the ability to take orders, CCTV features, and even stock management. This could be applied to other unmanned devices as well.
But experiencing life in 5G speed won't necessarily require stepping outside your home. From turning off the lights and switching on the AC to ordering food from the grocery store, smart home functions and gadgets are also being optimized to run on 5G, based on AI speakers which are becoming more common with over 3 million units sold across the country last year. Meanwhile, virtual and augmented reality content will become even more realistic.
5G allows ultra-high speed and ultra-low latency transmissions, which means our unique VR and AR contents for watching professional baseball and golf games, as well as K-pop performances, will be upgraded from HD to 4K quality. Users can zoom in on gestures and facial expressions in real time.
South Korea's 3 major networks plan to simultaneously launch 5G for consumers in the coming weeks. Experts say by 2020, most Koreans will enjoy the super-fast connectivity in their daily lives. Usuyoung, Arirang News.
Local low-cost airline EasterJet is suspending the use of its 2 Boeing 737 MAX 8 airplanes amid safety concerns after 2 crashes involving the same model in 6 months. The planes will be grounded from Wednesday. The airline promised to make every effort to minimize inconvenience to customers. Easter vowed to cooperate with the Transport Ministry to have the planes inspected before they fly again. Last weekend, a Boeing 737 MAX 8 operated by Ethiopian Airlines crashed shortly after takeoff, killing all 157 people on board. Another case involves Indonesian carrier Lion Air when the same model crashed into the Java Sea last October. A brand new season for Korea's Pro Baseball League begins next week. To get warmed up and ready, the KBO players will have practice games over the next 8 days. There are also some new regulations and changes to take note of. Seobobin outlines what they are.
Before the upcoming 2019 KBO Professional Baseball League, the preseason practice games started on Tuesday and will continue until Wednesday next week. These practice games started at 1 p.m. local time on Tuesday in 5 stadiums across the country. Each team will play a total of 8 games, and should a game get canceled due to rain or high levels of fine dust, it won't be rescheduled. These games are a chance for teams to improve their tactics and get an insight on their opponent's strengths and weaknesses. Also, 19 of the league's 30 foreign players will be making their Korean baseball debut. The KBO League has made some changes for this season. These include a new official ball that is 1 millimeter larger and 1 gram heavier than before. There will also be a new rule banning runners from rough sliding to reach base. This rule comes in due to several severe injuries caused by rough sliding. Fielders will also have to step on base correctly. The criteria for canceling games due to fine dust has been specified. Starting this season, if there is a fine dust warning issued, the game can be canceled 1 hour before the start of the game. After the preseason games end next Wednesday, the 6-month-long official KBO League will start next Saturday. Seobobin, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you'll need. Michelle, the ultra-fine dust is gradually being blown away by the wind.
That's right, Daniel, and the air quality in Seoul and the surrounding Gyeonggi province has improved significantly in just a couple of hours. And stronger winds throughout the night will further clean the air by tomorrow. And we'll have plenty of sunlight on Wednesday across Northeast Asia. The nation's mercury will stay low, while Beijing and Tokyo will be pleasantly warm. Parts of the country will wake up to freezing temperatures tomorrow. Seoul drops down to -1 degree Celsius and Chuncheon to -5. And Seoul will stay below seasonal average levels during the day at 7 degrees Celsius, while Daegu and Gyeongju increases up to 10 and 11 degrees respectively. And the cold snap will continue until Thursday, and rain is also expected on Friday. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we could pack into our newscast. Thanks for watching. Here's wishing you a good day or good night, depending on your time zone.